Hello, my friends, and welcome back to History English. I hope you are having a peaceful, wonderful day. Before we begin, get comfortable, sit back or lie down. Take a slow breath in and out. You do not need to understand every word tonight. Just let the English flow like a quiet river. If you miss a word, that is okay. Let it go and keep listening. Tonight, I want to tell you a story. Imagine a small boy in a poor town in Brazil. He is so poor that he cannot afford a real football. So he takes an old sock and he fills it with rags and newspaper, and he ties it with string, and that becomes his ball. He plays with it barefoot in the dusty streets for hours and hours and hours. Now imagine that one day, this boy sees his father cry. Grown men all around him are weeping because their country has lost a football match. And this little boy, holding his sock ball, looks up at his crying father and makes a promise. A promise so big it sounds impossible from the mouth of a poor barefoot child. Can you imagine making a promise like that? A promise to heal your father's broken heart, with nothing but a ball at your feet? This boy would grow up to keep that promise, not once, but 3 times. He would become, for millions of people, the greatest the game has ever seen. His name was Pelé, and this is his story. If you enjoy learning English through calm stories like this, please subscribe to History English. It helps us keep these gentle stories coming, one quiet night at a time. It was 1940, in a small town in Brazil. The boy was born with a long and beautiful name, Edson Arantes do Nascimento, but the whole world would come to know him by a single simple word, Pelé. His family was very poor. They moved to a town called Bauru, looking for a better life. His father, whom everyone called Dondinho, was a footballer too, a good one. But an injury to his knee had stopped his career, and so the family had very little money. To help, young Edson shined shoes on the street. He carried his little wooden box and he polished the shoes of strangers for a few coins. Every coin mattered. Sometimes there was not enough food on the table. But the boy had football, his father taught him. And even with a sock stuffed with rags for a ball, the boy was magic. A promise made by a child can be the strongest promise of all. In the year 1950, something happened that broke the heart of an entire country. Brazil was hosting the World Cup, the biggest football competition on earth. The whole nation believed they would win. In the final match, in a giant stadium in front of 200,000 people, Brazil lost. They lost at the very last moment. The country fell silent. People wept in the streets, and in their small home, young Edson watched his father, Dondinho, sit down and cry. The boy had never seen his father like this, so he walked over, and he put his small hand on his father's shoulder, and he said something. He said, "Do not cry, father. One day, I will win the World Cup for you." He was 9 years old. 9, a poor boy with a sock for a ball, promising to win the greatest prize in the world. Most people would have smiled at such a sweet, impossible dream. But this boy meant every single word. The boy practiced and practiced and practiced. With the sock ball, with a grapefruit, with anything round he could find. He joined a youth team, and a coach began to shape him. The other children gave him a nickname. They called him Pelé. Strangely, the young boy did not like it at all. He even got into fights over it. He had no idea that this funny little name would one day be spoken with love in every country on earth. By the time he was a teenager, people were beginning to whisper about him. This skinny boy could do things with a ball that grown men could not. He could dance past them. He could score from impossible angles. He played with pure, fearless joy. And then, when he was just 15 years old, a famous club called Santos asked him to come and play. He had to leave his family and his town, a boy alone, carrying a small bag and a giant dream. At first, far from home, he was homesick, but on the pitch, he was already something the world had never seen. Sometimes, the smallest, poorest beginnings hide the largest dreams of all. Pelé scored his first professional goal before he had even turned 16. In his very first full season, he scored more goals than anyone else in the league. People could not believe their eyes. He was a teenager, playing like a master, and so, in 1958, Brazil chose him for their World Cup team, held that year far away in Sweden. He was just 17 years old. At first, he was injured, and he had to wait. But when he finally played, the whole world stopped to watch. In the quarterfinal, he scored. In the semifinal, he scored 3 goals. And then came the final, against the host nation, Sweden, in front of their own crowd. In that final, the 17-year-old boy scored one of the most beautiful goals anyone had ever seen. He flicked the ball over a defender's head and then volleyed it into the net, as calm as if he were playing in his own street back home. Brazil won. They were champions of the world, and the 17-year-old boy, the poor boy with the sock ball, sank to the ground and wept like a child. Because he had done it, he had kept his promise to his father. A whole nation cried with joy. Their long heartbreak was finally healed by a teenager. Now the world knew his name, Pelé, and he was only beginning. For the next years, Pelé became something more than a footballer. He became a kind of king. In fact, people began to call him exactly that, O Rei, which means the king. He stayed loyal to his club, Santos in Brazil, for almost his entire career. He could have left for great riches in Europe, but he stayed close to home. With Santos, he traveled the world, and everywhere he went, crowds filled the stadiums just to see him play. He played the game in a way that made people happy. He did not just want to win. He wanted to win beautifully. People began to call football the beautiful game, and Pelé was the reason why. He scored so many goals that the numbers seem unreal. Hundreds and hundreds of them. In 1969, he scored his 1,000th goal, and the whole country celebrated as if it were a holiday. There was a second World Cup along the way, in 1962, when Brazil won again, though Pelé was injured early and watched his teammates finish the job. But the greatest was still to come. To win one World Cup is the dream of a lifetime. Pelé was about to chase a third. In 1970, the World Cup was held in Mexico. By now, Pelé was not a boy. He was a man, a leader, the heart of perhaps the greatest football team ever assembled. This was the first World Cup, shown around the world in color television. And so, for the first time, the whole planet could watch Pelé in full, glowing color at the very peak of his powers. That Brazil team played football like a beautiful dream. And Pelé was its smiling, dancing soul. He scored, he created, he tried impossible, joyful things that no one had ever imagined. In the final, Brazil were magnificent. Pelé scored, and he set up goal after goal for his teammates. The last goal of that final is still remembered as one of the most beautiful team goals in history. finished by his captain after Pelé calmly rolled the ball into his path without even looking. Brazil won. Pelé had now won the World Cup 3 times. No player before him had ever done it, and to this day, no player ever has again. The poor boy with the sock ball had kept his promise to his father 3 times over. After 1970, Pelé eventually retired from his beloved Santos. But his story was not quite finished. In 1975, he made a surprising choice. He traveled to the United States, a country that, back then, barely cared about football at all. He joined a club in New York, and for a few years, he gave his joy to a brand new audience. Why? Because he wanted to share the beautiful game with the whole world, even places that did not yet love it. Children in America who had never watched football suddenly filled stadiums to see the smiling king. He helped plant a seed that is still growing today. And through all of it, all the fame, all the goals, all the glory, Pelé stayed warm and humble and kind. He remembered the poor boy he had been. He remembered the sock ball and the shoeshine box and his father's tears. For the rest of his life, he was an ambassador for football and for joy, loved in every corner of the earth, known simply as the King. When Pelé passed away in December of 2022, at the age of 82, the whole world stopped to remember him. In Brazil, there were days of mourning. People wept again, but this time with gratitude for the joy he had given them. A boy who had nothing had given the world a beautiful gift. The idea that a game could be played like a piece of art. Your journey too. Now, my friend, let me say something to you. Yes, to you listening tonight. You are on a journey too. Maybe, like that little boy, you do not have everything you wish you had. Maybe you are starting with very little. Maybe, tonight, you are learning English, and it feels slow, and the words run too quickly. But remember the boy with the sock ball. He had no money, no real football, no reason to believe his impossible promise, and yet he practiced, with joy, every single day, with whatever he had in his hands. Every word of English you understand tonight is a victory. Every day you come back and listen again, you grow a little and a little more. You do not need the best of everything to begin. You only need to begin with joy and with what you have. So do not stop. Keep listening, keep playing your own beautiful game. The poor boy with the sock ball kept a promise that sounded impossible, and so, in your own way, can you. Thank you for spending this quiet time with me. If this story warmed your heart, please give it a like. It truly helps. Subscribe so you can join us for the next story. And leave a comment. Where are you watching from tonight? Write your country and the word dream in the comments. I love to read everyone. Sleep well or study well, my friends, and come back us soon. Your English is growing one word, one story, one quiet night at a time.